So we are going to start lying down on the floor. So no matter what, the cordless ball is going to go in the side of the ribs. Now, if you have some form of foam roller, it doesn't have to be a melt roller, you're going to use that for your head and position it just below your cheekbone. If you don't have a roller, you absolutely can just rest your head down on your arm, or I don't actually have my block here, but if you imagine that this is a block, you could bring the arm forward and put your head on your block or your cushions, whatever you have. Okay, I just want you to be as comfortable as you can be. The only advantage with the roller is we can do a little bit of work on the jaw and the side of the neck all at the same time. Okay, so the movement is really a big, massive tuck and tilt. So pulling the pubic bone forward and extending it away. But you all know cat stretch. So if you think of this movement followed by this movement, we're looking for that on the toys that we have and inside lying. So if you're on the roller, if everything is connecting from the pelvis to the skull, the roller will move. Your head will effectively be doing like a nod yes. The ribs go forward, the ribs come in, the abdominals expand, they contract. And it can be a really quick way to see what isn't moving. You know, if it's just the pelvis that's doing something and the roller or whatever your head is on isn't really feeling any change. The ribs are the one that I really want you to think about, because when we work with the band, the arms are connected to the rib cage and therefore connected into the abdominal wall and the back muscles. And one of the connections sits here. So the more we can get this tissue to open, the better it is. There was something else I'm sure that was bubbling in my head then, but I can't think what it is. Oh yes, I know. Okay, so if you are dealing with hip or shoulder issues, these moves are particularly useful because on the floor side, you're moving the pelvis backward and forward over the head of the thigh bone in a way where you're not bearing weight through that hip joint. So it can be a really good way to get some circulation in there to kind of WD-40 the joint, but without having to put major amount of weights in. So we're kind of closing and opening the back and the front of the hip joint and the shoulder joint. Okay, now you're going to pause, take the top hand, put it on the bottom hand. Now, I don't have them lined up. My top hand is short, and that's perfectly okay. And you want the top hand to gently glide forward and to come back. This is a move where more is not better. You want the most relaxed, easy, least amount of effort needed to do the move. So this is unashamedly stolen from the Feldenkrais method. And to me, of everybody and everything I have ever studied with, he really was the genius of the body. And their whole philosophy is ease. It's if you have to use tension to do something, that thing isn't working. And when you pull back is often when you get the release. So your head, and this may not be, well, no, it should be on a block. I don't know with a pillow, I haven't tried it with that, but your head should be turning a little. So I'm kind of going towards my nose, back towards my ear. The same as the last movement, you've now got gliding in the shoulder that's resting on the floor, which is why you want to thread that arm all the way through, because you're getting to close and open this shoulder joint without any major amounts of weight and effort. And then you have the same thing going on at the hip joint. If your pelvis has chosen to come along for the ride, if the knee is sliding forward and back, then we also have closing and opening in the hip joint. So I am a massive fan of these movements where you don't put a stack of weight through, but you use the movements the pelvis should be able to go through to effectively loosen the hip up. And if you can feel that your knee doesn't want to come for the ride, or the pelvis isn't coming for the ride, you're just thrusting the ribs forward and arching into the back, then you already have a little clue that rotation might be the thing that's a little bit sticky. Okay, then we're going to come back to center, and the last thing we're going to do on this side is bring your spare hand onto the side ribs. Now, if this is not good on your shoulder, you can rest your arm here or here, it doesn't matter. But as you breathe in, I want your ribs to really go wide. The side on the ball has to work hard. Then hold the breath and pull the ribs in as tiny as you can, as far up off the ball and away from your hand. You're waiting for the moment of discomfort, and then it's like a soft, slow exhale, like a balloon deflating, where you feel yourself go very heavy onto the ball. You let the ribs just spill out and over. So the inhale, we get this widening. It's almost like resistance training for the diaphragm muscle where it has to pull out. Then contrary to breath, we keep the lungs full and we try to get the diaphragm to contract, pull the ribs all the way in, which works all of the musculature on the side of the ribs. And then in that exhale is when the magic happens. When you really just are able to let go, go really heavy, you'll almost feel a lengthen, and that's where the roller can be useful because you'll feel the roller does a little bit of a roll when you let go. So you just want to do that 2 more times. And then, because I don't know where anybody is in their breath, when you finish the one you're doing, can you just take everything out and lie on your back for a moment? And please do not rush. It's really important you finish before you take it all out and lie on your back. But then I want you just to tune in to the difference between the side that has just been opened up by the ball. So once you're lying on your back, can you take a couple of neck turns and just see if for you it made any difference to your neck, whether you turn more easily. So I did my left side, so I can feel that when I turn my head to the right, feels like it could go forever. But when I go the reverse way to the left, no, it's okay, but it doesn't have quite the same feeling of ease. Then when you've compared that, I want you to think about the ribs on the side compared to the ribs that weren't. Notice if your rib cage feels wider or longer. Some of you might notice that arm's actually chosen to sit further away because the shoulder has really dropped itself open and back. Maybe the space in the lower back is a little bit different on this side. Maybe you feel like you have more length. Perhaps you're sitting really dumped down into the pelvis on this side, but we are going to go fix that. And perhaps that's resulted in what feels like a longer leg. And I just want you to tune into that long leg, long arm thing, because that is something that body workers throw around a lot. Oh, you've got a longer leg. And actually, I think the percentage of population that's born with a longer length is minute. It's something like 0.5%. Oftentimes, it is just the soft tissue imbalance. Okay, let all of that go and let's turn do the other side. Okay, so head comfortable on whatever you're using. Bottom arm extended through. If you're on the roller, you want to position it just below your cheekbone so your ear is on the roller. And then we go through the tuck and the tilt. And there's nothing wrong with using your hand to help you on the floor, but you know now the cat stretch shape. So can you think of that motion where the head and the pelvis come in towards each other, away from each other? And then how does this side move? So things to look at, does the head automatically move? Or did you hear me say that and you started pulling the head in, which is fine because we need to integrate that movement. But then you already know maybe there's some stiffness in the neck and the shoulders, and that's what's messing the pelvis up, because the pelvis and the head have to move together. So when there is a restriction in one side compared to the other side, we have to pay attention to that. Okay, then take your spare hand, put it on the bottom hand, slide that top hand forward to let it come back. And so in this one, remember, this is the one you want to be lazy, easy. But the things that I would start with, again, do you feel your head turn down towards your nose, back towards your ear? If not, we 100% want to get that movement going. So you can think of your head finding that turn as the hand slides forward, rolling back to your ear as it comes back. Do you feel this top shoulder coming along for the ride? This side of the ribs rotating forward, and they should have an easier time because they've already been on the ball. Then the important ones, like the pelvis, is that rolling forward, or are you just pulling on your lower back? So in Feldenkrais, they would never be this pedantic, but it might be worth just kind of like, do I bring my ribs and my pelvis forward and back together? Or does it feel like my pelvis is moving because my ribs are throwing themselves forward? I'm arching my back and it is getting the knee to go forward, but actually the pelvis isn't doing very much. You know, we would really, in a perfect world, everything would go together: ear, shoulder, rib, pelvis, knee, and then everything comes back. Okay, now find center, take your hand, place it on the top of the ribs. So as you breathe in, we want both sides of the ribs to expand. And how is that side on the ball? How much is it able to push into the ball? Same when you hold the breath and now you snap the ribs in. Can this side really lighten up against the ball? Does it really pull away from your hand? And when you exhale to let go, how much does this side understand this going heavy, sinking down, spilling over the ball? Because when that tissue is tight, you kind of often don't, I think you don't know it's tight until it stops being that way. That's my experience anyway. All right, one more time. And then once you have finished with that, I'm going to have you turn to lie on your back. I'm going to take the ball and put it between the inner thighs. Okay, so what if you don't have the ball and you're putting a cushion in or whatever, fold it in two. But what I want you to notice for a moment is, what is the least amount of pressure needed to hold the ball? So hand in hand with any kind of hip or shoulder issues is sometimes a knee that's going in and a foot that is always holding weight only on one side of it. So I want you now to squeeze whatever it is as hard as you can, and see if you notice one leg squeezes more than the other. Now, that's not the leg we're interested in. The one that feels like it's not squeezing so much might be the one that's always permanently halfway in the squeeze. When you let go, that's the leg I want you to think about. How much can you let that leg let go against the ball? Because we only need the bare minimum pressure to hold it in place. And this might be the first time that the foot has to wake up and take some weight over onto the baby toe side. Put your hands on your ribs. Do not let your ribs move as you allow your pelvis to take a little roll backward and forward. So just nice and easy. Pay really close attention to not letting your ribs join in. It doesn't matter how small the movement feels. We definitely need to know, can your pelvis move back and forth without you needing to push your feet in the floor, without you needing to bum grip or squeeze the ball or fire the back of the legs? How much can the legs stay out of this movement to make sure we really get more balance through the core musculature? And then, obviously the ribs we're already watching. So in your roll back and forth, where feels like the halfway house for you, and then come and find that. Now, here's the important part. You want to be able to feel the ribs and the pelvis, and you want to feel that those two line up with each other. So your halfway house may not be entirely correct. You may have to roll forward a little bit more or tuck back a little bit more to really help the ribs to come into place. But once you have that, I want you now to push your feet down and let that go. And you're going to keep going in and out of that. Now, if you push down, everything in the torso will feel lighter. If your version of push down is push down and forward, you're going to feel that you slide up the mat a little bit and the pelvis goes into something of a tuck. So we are not looking for that at all. You want to stay on your middle ground and see whether your feet can generate the force needed to feel some form of change. That doesn't mean you pushed your ribs up, arched in your back, or rolled your pelvis back and pushed your back into the floor. You're going to use the push down of the feet to lift yourself up. But I'm working really hard to make sure my ribs and pelvis lift together. And that took quite a bit of work for me. And I know some of you have similar posture of the ribs wanting to do everything for everyone. So at the top, we're looking for this kind of smooth ski slope position. Now, if you imagine your toes are touching the skirting board, can you get your knees to go forward? That should kick in the back of the legs. Is there one leg working harder than the other? Maybe that's the knee, the one that's not so awake. Maybe that's the knee that struggles to go forward, and then let yourself lower down. So that moment of takeoff, you've heard me say this 100 times, is the moment you want to watch like a hawk. The push down of the feet, the ribs and the pelvis rise together. I used to think that was impossible. Like, that wasn't really true, but it is true, sadly. And then the knees go forward. And because the knees go forward means the weight moves into the heels, you should feel the back of the legs fire up. Is there a knee that potentially has to go forward to make the legs match, to let it come down and back? And the last one we're going to look at is there a leg that is squeezing in on the ball more? So coming up, press down. Find your knees forward. Can you relax both legs? There is some squeeze that has to happen to keep the knees in line, but we want to make sure is one leg trying to do way more than the other leg. Can you relax into one leg to pull the other one forward and then let everything drop down? Okay, take the ball out, let the legs go to straight, roll them in, roll them out. And then we're going to rock on up to standing and see if we can put some of that work into a more functional position. So when you come up to standing, can you grab your half dome? And because I'm recording this, I'm going to send it out to everyone. If you don't have a half dome, a rolled up towel on a book will do a job quite nicely. So you're going to bring one foot up on top. And then just like you can spread your fingers and your hands, can you think of spreading your toes and your feet? The other foot, we're going to have slightly stepped back. So you look like you're on a staircase. This is the foot on the stair below, and then obviously the other one. So before you go anywhere, if I was about to move to the next stair, the first thing that should happen, my foot should push down. So I want you to play with that. And if the foot can push down, where you will find fires up is right here in the side of the hip. So I have seen numerous ways that people have navigated this week. So not in any particular order. This sometimes happens to get the foot to press down, or sometimes this happens where the whole body goes forward, or there's a over to the side to try and get the foot to push down. You shouldn't be moving at all right now in terms of your torso. That stays right where it is, and you're trying to think down. Okay, so if you keep your hand on the side of your hip, okay, not on bone, definitely on muscle, I want you to push the foot down, and as you step up, do you feel that muscle contract more? And then let the foot go back and down. So it's like a up to the top and down. And this is where you really have to watch how you navigate this, because the weaker hip will have you go like this, forward to come up. That often is accompanied, if you watch the knee, by the knee that never fully straightened. The body tries to get upright, but the knee stays bent. When the knee does that, the hip doesn't have to do any work, and you're crashing all the way down into the knee. And then the last one, which also is a big one, is when the hip goes sideways to straighten. And then sometimes it goes sideways and round the corner. And over time, where you're literally spinning the pelvis on the head of the thigh bone, particularly if the knee goes in, you're literally grinding the top of the thigh bone against the hip socket. So this is where just being really mindful of how am I getting up? And I know if you're getting up like this, it's not going to fix just like that, but the moment you're more aware of it, life becomes better. So my challenge this week, for those of you that live in a house with stairs, is as you go upstairs, I want you to go up on flat feet. So I don't want you to go up on the balls of the feet with the heels lifted. I want you to put your foot on the stair, push the foot down, see how vertical you can stay as you take the other leg up. And one of my friends who's in class, she messaged me, she was like, oh, yeah, okay, I can feel the difference. Let's go do the other side. No, the sun was shining, that feels a little bit chilly. So we want the other foot back. So the knee is bent on the dome, and initially you're just going to push the foot. Like, I wouldn't do anything else, because if you have one hip, one foot that generates good power, and one hip where you can feel that gathering up starting to happen, that is going to be your best friend, because you can use the blueprint. You know what it feels like for that weaker hip. You know where to go to get the feeling to begin to happen. And it is a fake it till you make it. But if you can start to get the gathering of the hip and you can think of pushing the foot down, then we're on the road to getting everything to do what it's supposed to. So remember all those things you're looking for, that little bit of pitch forward in the hip joint, or the whole body goes forward. That's the only way you can generate foot pressures. And of course, there's all the things of ribs and head, we can't cover everything, or the body that's already starting to go all the way over to try and feel the foot to the floor. Because when you go up, the foot pushes down, the hip gathers, the knee straightens, and then back you come. And you have to be able to generate good force through the ball and the heel of the foot, which is why if you tiptoe up your stairs, you never have to use your hip to get up there. So effectively, every staircase journey is an opportunity to weaken the hip when it could be an opportunity to strengthen the hip. And there are literally, where we live, there is no part in this area of the Downs where you should have to lean forward to get up. You should be able to stay a vertical human being. Easy to say, not so easy to do. Okay, so let's leave that for a moment and pick your half dome up, but use it. Now, it doesn't matter if you have the shorter half domes. I also have those. I go between the two of them. They will both do the job fine. You're going to take the half dome. Let me grab the smaller one because I think most of you probably have that. And put it between the pelvis and the rib cage. Okay, so once you have that, pick up all 10 toes, lay them down. Okay, acquaint yourself with the feeling of what the dome is touching and what it is not. So when the knees go forward, nothing changes relative to the dome. Once you have that, now you start to send your bum back, and your focus is in what you're feeling against the dome. That nothing changes there at all in any way, shape or form. And the big one for most people, they drop the head, they round the back, and it pushes the bum under. So we're not looking for that. As you come out, really the same. As the knees straighten and the pelvis comes forward, nothing should need to change. So go ahead, do that again. Knees go forward. And when there isn't any more knees forward, the rest of you goes back. Good. And when you're done, it all comes forward. Okay. Dump the half dome, but hold that thought, because the forward is also really important. Okay, we have to get to the nth degree of both ranges, and some of you are stopping short on the coming back, which might tell us something about what you've been using to get yourself forward and back. Okay, so maybe if we just measure ribs and pelvis from the front of the body. Okay, go ahead. And whatever you felt was different, stick with that, okay? Just go where you can go, trying to feel that these points are going together. So once you're in this knees forward, butt back, whatever that is for you, take your fingers into the front of the hip joint, and you should be able to slide your fingers deep into the hip cave. The doors are wide open right now. So as we come out of this and the knees straighten and the pelvis comes forward, Some of you are stopping where the doors are partially opened. I want you to push the feet down and bring the pelvis forward and bring yourself completely upright until it is clear to you that the doors of the hip cave are closed and your derriere has fired up and spoken to you. Can you do that one more time? Knees go forward. Think bum back, because it's not about sitting down. It's not about sitting down. It's really about going back. Good. You just come out of it when you're ready. Good. All the way. Fully straighten the knees. Fully straighten the knees. Push the feet down. There you go. Good. And let it release. All right. Grab your band. If this starts to bother your neck or your back, please come out of it, because the downside on Zoom is I can't come and adjust your back, and obviously sometimes I can't see exactly what's going on. So if you just hold your band or your dressing gown belt, probably not going to work so well on a dressing gown belt. If you're using that, I would just skip it out for now. So step onto the band, about a hip width apart. And then the band is going to be completely floppy, and we're not going to be bothered about that. I want you to let your knees go forward and your butt go back. The butt back is what I'm looking for. So the bum going back will never look like this. There's no real drop in height, because we are trying to load everything on the back of the hamstring, the back of the hip, and see if we can get the front of the ankle to open. So bear in mind what I said about the head dropping. Can you think of yourself as a long straight line, particularly through the neck, no wrinkles there, and then just walk the hands down the band until your arms are straight and the band just has this mild tension. From here, as you pull on the band, the elbows point backwards towards your bum and come down. Your palms always looking at each other, and between your elbows at the back is a big pumpkin. Can you squeeze that? Now I want you to really watch that the palms face each other. Yes, Jan, that was a good correction. Good. Very nice. All right, last one. Good job. All right, and then let all of that go completely. Take your band and put it over your right shoulder. So I know it probably feels this week like we're digressing from the squats, but to do a good squat, whether that's just sitting in a chair, getting up, or going to the floor and up, you have to have a very open upper back and neck that can release tissue to let you come down, which is why we're doing all this arm work. So if the band is on the right shoulder, your left hand goes behind you and holds it. And I'm trying to line my hand up with the center of my spine. Now, we're not particularly looking for this stretch, so you don't need to get the hand high up. The right arm goes up, bend the elbow, comes back, finds the band. But I am trying to get my hands to feel like they sit on top of each other. I'm trying to feel that my right elbow doesn't go out here, that I'm working to bring it in. And then for some of you, that when you got in this position, you didn't do this to get yourself there. Slacken off the band if you did. Pick up all 10 toes, lay them down, and now the bottom hand pulls the band straight down and releases. And this is where you want to be able to follow your spine, because there's no point pulling straight down if you're meandering off somewhere. Do less to do it better. I've spoken many times about the relationship between the opposite shoulder and hip. So we just want to make sure, you know, by the end of this class, we've covered a lot of things that can be causing aggravation in a hip joint that don't necessarily get looked at. Okay, so the next time that that arm returns, we're going to take the top hand and pull that up and release it down. Now, the beauty of the band is if you're like, oh my God, there's no way, slide your hand up the band. So maybe you start more here at the top of the head and you pull up from there. Because what I want you to think about is we really want this arm to go straight up all the way to the knuckles, not for your arm to go meandering off with a wrist that keeps bending and breaking. Think of the band more like a guide, because you can always build the resistance and the strength as you get more open. Then that's the time that you want to start adding load to really get that arm to be going up and down in a straight line. And the elbow is always a giveaway when it just wants to come out here somewhere, because it can't find this motion of straight ahead and pulling up. Good. And then lastly, just because I can't see a lot of you, your head and your neck, but I have seen a lot of people this week do this. So you do not want your head to get out of the way. And I know it's a pain with your hair. Okay, let that go. When you're done, just throw the band over the left shoulder. Bring one foot forward, doesn't matter which one. And then just let the arms take a little bit of a swing. So just a nice, gentle, easy swing. We don't need anything huge. But in this lazy, easy swing, if you pay attention, there should be some sense that something is happening at the feet. If your knees are nice and relaxed, there's some movement at the knees. There's a little something going on at the hip joint, the ribs, the shoulders. And it will be subtle, but there'd even be some movement going on at the head. Okay, let that go, and then let's change side. So you should have your band on your left shoulder. It is your right hand that goes back, finds the band, and lines up with your spine. The left arm goes up and back, and you're trying to just figure out how close you can get to that left elbow pointing directly ahead. Pull up all 10 toes because it really helps the rib thrust, and then set it down. And then we go with that bottom arm pulling down and releasing. So things I would watch for: bum gripping, pushing into the back of the knees. It's not the job of those muscles to stabilize you against the pull of the band. It's really your abdominal wall. And the thing that will stop the abdominal wall is you breath holding. And right now, if you're someone that likes to breathe up in your neck and shoulders, you're going to have a hard time doing that because of the position of the arms. So I want you to think of what we did on the ball, of expanding the ribs wide and letting them contract. Okay, now we're going to move to that top arm. So if you can feel like I know already, that's just going to be too much for that left arm, loosen it up as you pull up to let it come down. Because we're trying to find that left elbow pointing straight ahead so the arm straightens straight up to come back. And again, if your elbow wants to be out here, and just because I tell you it needs to be here doesn't mean it's necessarily going to come there. So we might just have to play with that in small increments. And of course, the other arm is actively holding the band as your counter resistance. Okay, last one. and then let that release completely. Okay, so we're going to grab the half dome again, put it long ways dome side up, and then we're just going to play around with being able to move from one foot to the other. So we've already talked about splay the toes out, spread the foot. We've talked about this hip steadying you. So now when you go up, I want this hanging leg to come forward and land heel to toe. Then you're going to see if you can step back and go toe to heel. So if you need to, you can always go to something, you know, like a wall or a back of a chair or whatever it is. If you need that for balance, it's fine, take it. But the things I want you to look for is that desire to go forward. Instead of going up, heel, toe, then you start to go forward, and then the same thing as you go back. And there, I don't know why somebody would have ever commissioned this study or research, but there was a study to show that if people walked backwards for a couple of minutes, it completely changed the way the skeleton aligned itself and pulled all the joints back into a better position. So this is a good way to kind of feel like, how confident am I to step back, push down, and come backward? And that's where sometimes just knowing you can hold on to something can be really useful. So we're just looking in this move for when you go upstairs or up a slope, do you have to do this to get yourself up? And then you're kind of teapotting over that hip joint the whole time, instead of this hip firming up, locking you into place, and then you being able to glide forward. Okay, let's go change to the other foot. So just go when you're ready, up, step down, step back. And then always interesting to see where this foot is landing, particularly if you notice it lands like this, it comes across and in front. Okay, maybe not so easy on your stairs to watch where you're landing, but certainly right now you want to think, okay, am I really landing in a train track? Or, you know, certainly on this right leg could do with a little bit of work of actually landing under its hip joint instead of mooching back in. And also, just to be really picky, whether when you come down, there's that motion where the foot is going out and torquing the thigh bone in the hip joint. It's not so easy to see, but some of you are doing it in both directions, so I'm exaggerating, but it is happening, which takes away all the work of the adductors that connect into the pelvis and into the pelvic floor. Okay, let that go. Let's take the dome, flip it the other way. There's usually a general groan at this moment. So the dome is flat for your foot. Your foot is more accustomed to that surface. However, you don't need me to tell you there's a bit of a wobble. So we've worked the back and forth motion of the pelvis over the thigh bone. This time we're going to work more the side motion. So standing here, can you push the foot on the dome down with any force? Now, it does depend on the dome that you own, because some of them are very firm foam and they don't have any gives. But if you have the ones of mine, the like shorter ones or even these long ones, they're slightly softer. And you can feel that pressure of your foot as it pushes into the dome. So we're looking for the heel and the ball of the foot. So this time, it would kind of be normal to feel that there's a little bit of sideways, because that is what the foot should be firing to the brain, that I'm taking more pressure into this foot and it's the side foot. So now when we go to step up and back down, how do you navigate that? We still want the muscle on the side of the hip to fire. But is this a scenario where we start to see this out to the side to get you up, or round the corner to get you up? The knee that kind of collapses in and tries to get you all on that big toe side of your foot instead of the knee looking straight ahead. Maybe this is where the knee that never fully straightens, never closes the doors to the hip cave, shows up. Because in this moment here, there should be no access to the hip joint because your butt needs to be on. And then if we were going to do some kind of weird sideways step up and forward, can you step up and lift the other leg up and bring it down? Good. And bodies are very clever. So when you step up, there's kind of these obvious things of, does your knee slightly angle in or slightly angle out? You 100% want that knee to look forward. But also when the standing hip is not that strong, here's how your body will make this easier. Watch where my heel is sitting. There is a world of difference between this and this. And try it. Try one time with the heel kind of sitting under the back of the thigh, and then one time with it sitting out under the knee. And you'll notice how it changes everything when there's a little bit of laziness going on one side. It's also just a very interesting way because lots of things show up. It's often the time when you suddenly notice the foot that likes to twist off in either, any combination that it can find. Okay, and then change to the other foot. So, same thing, few times I would play first with just the press of the foot. How is it on this foot? Can you feel a clear press? Are you having to use your whole body coming over to press? Because it's more likely to be that way than forward. Nothing's a given, but. And then I would play a few times with stepping up, stepping down. You definitely want to feel, if you're on a dome, that it wobbles because your foot should be moving around to accommodate your weight coming over it. If whatever you're using is rock solid all the way through, we have an ankle and foot that can't move, and that is not good news. So you would actually want to step on your dome and do a little bit of rocking around with the foot. And then you might just want to put your hand on the side of your hip. Do you really come up vertical, or do you notice there's all this kick out to the side? If it starts to bother your knee, we really have to think about where is the knee looking as it straightens. Because if your knee has this habit of coming in and you go up and you're trying to work a straight hip, but the knee is still over here, we're going to have a few problems with that. So you want to get the knee looking forward first and see if you can keep the knee looking forward as you come up. And then you can play with all that, bringing the knee up, taking it down. But I would say that in these two sequences that we've just done, there is a stack of work that is beneficial for all sorts of hip, knee, shoulder issues, that if we can get some balance here, we can get some balance through the rest of the body. Okay, let all of that go. And then the last one we're going to try and squeeze in is if you just come down onto the flat floor, take a couple of walks back and forth, because we definitely want your brain and your nervous system to feel how your feet are reading the floor, because it might feel quite different right now. Okay, then when you come center, you're going to bring 1 foot forward. Now you are just going to have to take it from me, because I do think I absolutely know what I'm talking about with this. When you are barefoot or in your socks, your stride length will be shorter than it is in a shoe. And if you don't listen to that, you're not going to get what I'm asking you to get in this next move. So while you want your feet on their train tracks, I would not do a big long stride like this. I would definitely pull in. If you feel like I'm restricting you, then you can open up. But you have to be able to hit all these points. So in standing, ribs and pelvis stacked up. Front knee goes forward, comes back. And you should not go forward with that knee 1 iota. You're going to have to be really strict that this side stays with the hip cave doors closed, the knee straight, and you are not taking weight forward and back. Once the knee is forward, all of this goes together, but the pubic bone slightly leads. So if you think of that setting off first, everything else coming along for the ride, there is a moment where that back heel either gets light or leaves the floor. However, the knee is not bent on the back leg. The doors to the cave are shut, the knee is open. I would describe this as 2/3 of weight on my front foot, 1/3 on the back foot. And if I was asked to take the back foot off, I could do that, and it really I wouldn't need to change anything about me. Put your fingers on the corner bones and turn the pelvis to the back foot to then rotate it home. The things to look for, those of you who have a knee that is stuck in a pelvis rotated position are going to want to take your knee further. So when you've turned the pelvis, look at your knee. It should go forward over the big toe. It does not fall in past the big toe. Every time you turn to the back leg, the hip cave doors remain closed. The knee remains fully straightened. So what will block you is the stiff foot where the bones can't all roll and rotate and the heel doesn't spin round towards the other foot. And when people get stuck, they end up moving their weight back to try and find the twist. So the next time you're in the twist, you don't have to bring the back leg off. You'll know whether you would have to go forward to do that, and then you know that's not what I'm looking for. Okay, let that release, bring the other foot forward. We might just run like 2 minutes over, so if you need to go, I get it, and you can catch up on the recording. So set your stride, both feet forward, stack up the ribs and the pelvis, and then let your knee go forward to straighten, forward to straighten. Now, when the knee goes forward, you should feel the pelvis drop on that side. I'm not talking about that. I just want you to notice you didn't go forward in any way. And on the back leg, the knee stayed straight and the hip stayed closed. We would actually refer to this anatomically as open, but it might make more sense. Okay, then when we want to go forward, the pubic bone leads the parade. So as soon as I'm going forward, the pelvis actually goes into a tuck. So that back bum cheek is working. The knee is fully straightened. And most of my weight is on that front foot. Once you have that, and you might want to go in and out of this a few times because the front arch must flatten down, the foot must carry the weight, then the pelvis turns to the back leg. and comes back. And you would turn fully. I'm just keeping my eyes this way because I'm trying to watch the screen at the same time. On the back foot, the foot doesn't get to pivot. You don't get to roll off the big toe joint. You're trying to feel the heel bone because the heel bone actually curves round towards the other foot. And then the next time you're in the twist, stay there. Is your knee pointing straight ahead? Are the hip cave doors shut? Is the knee fully open on that leg? And if you were to pick up the back leg, would you be able to do it without any changes? And then unspin yourself, and then you girls are done and dusted.